The release of Toy Story 4 recently occurred, a film I promised myself I'd refuse to watch due to my massive appreciation of Toy Story 3's ending. And I decided to stick to the subconscious plan of breaking that promise and watching the film on opening day. Before that one gets discussed though, it felt only right to return to the beginning of the franchise that introduced the world to the trials and tribulations of the sentient toys of Andy. Most notably, the old-fashioned cowboy Woody, a sad, strange little man who has my pity, and the initially deluded space ranger Buzz Lightyear. The first film combines an imaginative premise and a coherent, focused story with unpredictable moments of suspense and thoughtful character growth, while subtly creating a fully actualized universe. Every setting used in the film is so vividly designed that distinctive identities for these landscapes are established, creating that air of relatability that even children's fantasy films require to become emotionally invested. There are brilliantly witty moments of dialogue, a genuinely progressive dynamic between the two leads that begins with complications and evolves into friendship, but remains entertaining throughout. Recently I complimented Disney's Aladdin's tendency to display obvious characteristics within almost every one of their characters. This achievement heavily applies to Toy Story too, by which I mean it applies to Toy Story as well, not that it applies to Toy Story 2, although it does as well. Apart from our leads, masterfully portrayed by Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, Rex the pacifistic nervous dinosaur, the angry and sarcastic but romantic Mr. Potato Head, the loyal and reasonable Slinky, the technologically savvy Ham, and Bo Peep the female one, are all visually and behaviourally distinctive. I've also praised a lot of animated family films for exploring dark content with purpose and without force, a feature that is masterfully exhibited in this Pixar classic. Deep themes are explored and melodrama is carefully avoided. The film also perfectly captures a sense of adventure, and its status as a beloved piece of Western animation is understandable. But like all films, it is not without its issues. But of course, criticism of great works of fiction is not an idea that we promote on major YouTube channels. But I'm not on a major YouTube channel, am I? The film does contain genuine plot holes, which is expected when an ambitious, complicated idea is attempted for the first time. One that is frequently mentioned online concerns the fact that Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, is shown playing dead around humans just like all the other toys, even though at this point he doesn't know that he's a toy. But I think this can easily be explained by saying that Buzz clearly noticed how the other toys acted, observed that it was some kind of a survival tactic, and followed their example so he too could be safe from harm. I find a bigger issue of the story concerns Sid, who's portrayed as sociopathic and evil for torturing toys. And while he may not be a generally pleasant person, in Sid's defence, he wasn't aware that the toys were alive. And the reason he's unaware of this is because the toys play dead in the presence of humans. So I feel like this misunderstanding is partly their fault. If one had just ran away from him once a long time ago, it would have scared him into stopping it earlier. Granted, it is disrespectful to destroy toys, but I have always felt that there is a difference between misbehaviour and committing actual murder. Perhaps his most egregious sin is being a bully to his sister, and the toys don't really show any concern for that. Anyway, Hannah turned Buzz into Mrs. Nesbit, so she is not blameless. Suspense of belief is necessary when watching a children's fantasy film about living toys, but internal inconsistencies can be frustrating when they're featured in a film that's otherwise so attentively written. I'm also puzzled by the fact that the toys in the second film freely and loudly roam around a shop during business hours. A large shop, mind you, that is part of a chain and is advertised on TV, yet it seems totally deserted. I would be so satisfied if there was like a mid-credit scene where a security guard finds CCTV footage of the living toys and just pours the rest of his can of beer down the sink. Like, oh, I've had enough of this. This isn't reviewing, this is ranting, with style. My only other negative opinion concerns the music. The songs are fitting and well written, but I just don't find any appeal in Randy Newman's vocal style. Some of the artwork is also quite dated by now, but since our leads aren't human, this is mostly undistracting. I'll give Toy Story an 8 out of 10. The issue that creating a human antagonist presented in the first film seems to have been acknowledged, and antagonists who are also toys have been featured in every future Toy Story film, including the most recent Toy Story 4. Oh, that transition. This installment concerns Woody's journey to return a sentient spoke to its rightful owner, Bonnie, who by the end of Toy Story 3 had become Woody's rightful owner too. His reunion with Bo Peep and the effect these events have on the lives of the other toys also contribute to the narrative. Any more detail than this would delve into spoiler territory, which I am eager to avoid. Thankfully, the film mostly understands the primary strengths of this franchise, so it effectively recaptures the joy that audiences have come to expect from this series. Visuals are greatly improved, characterization is brilliantly observed, since it gives logical purpose to characters who were initially basically unimportant, or at the very least underdeveloped. The emotionally driven reality-based subtext that can be found in all Toy Story films are as powerful as ever, and the variety and distinctiveness of the settings used add a great sense of energy to this already heavily established universe. It also boasts a colourful and consistent sense of humour, successfully channels the expected sense of excitement, almost as well as the first film does, and features the franchise's most three-dimensional antagonist. However, sadly, I do fail to view it as the flawless masterpiece it's mostly been received as. It's undeniably good, my feelings are positive, and it is not at all the soulless, unnecessary piece I was expecting it to be. But I felt like there were some really noticeable issues. The most obvious for me was occasional misjudged character focus. A wide cast of characters are introduced, and due to the fact they are all united by a common character arc, the sheer number of them feels pointless, especially since several of them don't actively contribute to the plot. So their inclusion makes the film feel meandering and disorganised occasionally and hinders the pace. This also means that characters who are important to this film's specific story, the franchise in general, are unfairly neglected at times. As much as I like Key and Peele, and as much as I do not doubt that their inclusion in this film was, for a lot of viewers, among the film's key appeals, their roles should have perhaps been more cameo-based, since they barely service the plot. Comic relief characters are important, but Keanu Reeves' Duke Kaboom provides a lot of humour and actually services the plot in a character-specific way. However, a lot of these characters are genuinely entertaining, so this does remedy their general plot irrelevance, at least to a certain extent. There are also a small amount of minor but legitimate plot holes, but all the aforementioned strengths, as well as the rewarding and bold conclusion to the series this film offers, mean that the issues that are there never become over-intrusive. Toy Story 4 earns a 7.5 out of 10. A score I feel could increase after a long reflective period. While on the subject of Disney films and ratings, I will change my score of Incredibles 2 to a 6.5, and I'll do the same with Ralph Breaks the Internet. I will also downgrade my rating for Mary Poppins Returns to a 6 out of 10. No one watched those videos anyway, but I just feel like this one needs to be padded out a bit more. Thanks for watching my latest, and if I see you in the next video, then rest assured, you've got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me when the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed. You just remember what your old pal said. Oh, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me